Hi everyone, and welcome to For Your Junk Journals. I am Deanna, and today we are doing a tutorial video on how to make the hidden paperclip right there on the right. Now you may be asking yourself, well, why are you showing two different things if you're only doing one tutorial video? That's because for whatever reason, I thought I was going to be able to get two tutorials into one, and boy, was I wrong. This is a lot longer of a video than I had expected, so we will just be making this hidden paperclip right here. And I will probably, if you are here because I referenced this video in another video, stay tuned because I'm going to be showing you just some tips and tricks on using the cardboard as well as the packaging paper coming up here in just a second. So I just want to make sure that I clarify for this video that it is just for the hidden paperclip. So I'm doing a voiceover now. I'm going to go back to the video and let that take over.
But the first thing we need to do is we need to prepare a couple things. We need to get the cardboard, as well as this is packing paper. So we're gonna create that real quick. And yeah, so we will start with the cardboard. So I have a piece of cardboard here and I'm creating for a few projects, so mine's kind of large. If you're just creating for your one project, then you can make it whatever size you want, of course. So now I know if you have ever worked with cardboard before, to get the stuff off can be a big pain in the backside. So as you pull it, you can kind of see it just leaves spots there. So a little trick on that is you're going to take your water bottle, you're going to spray it down. I usually give it a good wipe, make sure everything is covered, but you don't want sitting water. And then once we get this peeled off, we'll want to let it sit on the off to the sidelines for a little bit and let it dry up, because it does get a little moist. So, and you don't want that. So we're gonna let this sit for a minute, let that water absorb, and then we're gonna be back to peel it off. Okay, so I've let this sit for several minutes. I went ahead and flipped it because where you tear it up originally can make it harder to peel. So I kind of did a check here and it seemed like it was working. So let's see how this comes off. Now the trick here is really you have to let it sit for several minutes. Like if you get it wet, if you leave puddles on it, like big areas of water, it's going to be an issue too. So let it sit for several minutes. That will be the trick. And then I really should have cut the edges off. I don't know what I was thinking. But you can see how easy that is peeling off now. I don't know if you've ever tried peeling this stuff before, but it is a pain in the backside. So, and if I would have cut the edges off, it probably would have made it a little bit easier. This one's actually coming off, so. And you can actually save this top paper when you do it this way. Sorry if the camera's bouncing. It does take a little muscle, but it does make it a whole lot easier when you're peeling this. Now, the size you'll need will depend on the project you're doing. And like I said, I think I said it, I will put the measurements down below for you guys. Alright, so see how much better that is to come off? I don't know. Much better. So this is still just a tiny bit moist from spraying it, so we're going to set this aside and let it completely dry.
Okay, now we're going to prepare the packaging paper. So for this, I feel like there's a ton of videos on this, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but basically get the packaging paper down to the size you want, go ahead and scrunch it up, cover it in ink, lay it down flat, and then you're going to cover it in some kind of like a PVA glue water mix. So you're going to do, I've seen it done a couple ways. I personally do 2 parts glue to 1 part water. And you're going to want to make sure that you get that on the front and the back. Then once that is completely dried, we can move on to the next part of our project. I do want to mention real quick, another way that you can do this if you don't want to mix the glue and have it drying on a counter and taking up space, is you can actually use lotion or any kind of conditioner and just follow the same process. Scrunch up your paper, cover it in the ink, apply your lotion to it, and just lay it out for a few minutes, maybe about 30 minutes or so, till it completely dries. And you just want to do this with a very thin layer of lotion, and this kind of also gives the same effect. All right, so now we want to go ahead and prepare our cardboard. Now, I show measurements here. Don't worry about it. I will have everything linked below. But what you're going to want to do, or if you want to do it at all, is add some white paint to your cardboard. I feel like it just helps between the white paint and adding a little of the archival ink on it. It adds a lot of dimension to the actual look. So for this one, I do it 2 different ways. For this one, I'm covering it very thick with just some cheapy acrylic white paint that I've had on hand for years. You can kind of see it in the top right corner.
It is pretty old, but it still works. So this one I'm covering, like I said, pretty thick. The next one I'll just do like a very light brush on it, and then I take that archival ink and just distress the edges. Okay, so for the first one we're going to start with is going to be the hidden paperclip. Now for this one you're going to need, I think I have everything laid out here, but of course you're going to want your packing paper. I ended up going with the glue version just because it seemed like it was a little bit more, I mean, it's not super stiff, but it felt like it was a little stiffer. I think you can still use the one that has lotion on it. I just don't think it will be as strong, is the only issue I was worried with. So I stuck with the one with glue. And I will put all the measurements down below for you guys so you guys can have those. But I did write them on here for you guys as well. But I feel like the glare is kind of messing with it. Then you're going to want your cardboard. I went ahead and painted this white, and then I just added in some archival ink, dark roast. And I'll try to link everything down below for you guys. There'll probably be an affiliate link for some of it. But in any case, this one I can't find online. I've been trying to get a replacement because I've been going through this one pretty fast, but I only can find this one at Hobby Lobby so far. So there is that. Then this will be for the hidden pocket on the back side, and then of course the backer to the cardboard like that. Now, when I make my projects, I really measure with love. I don't actually pay attention to measurements. So I've kind of rounded these off to make them a little easier for you guys. Now, real quick, a note on the cardboard. When you are using your needle and the embroidery thread, it is easier, in my opinion anyways, to go between the grooves on the cardboard. So the first one I cut out the wrong direction. I went this way with it. You can probably use it this way, but I find it a whole lot easier to have your grooves run horizontal versus vertical. So just a little tip there. You're going to want some kind of pencil, a bone folder, or some kind of like a butter knife, whatever it may be, to just help fold your stuff. For the embroidery thread, this is what I used. Can you guys see that? And then I don't know if I'll be able to find these ones or not. I got these at a thrift store. So these are the two colors I chose. You can just use one color if you want. I like the contrast between the two, which doesn't really pick up very well on the camera, but in real life you do see the darker and the lighter. I think I went with these two the first time, or on this one at least. So what I did for those is I measured a fat 48, and what I mean by that is I take something that's about 12 inches wide, so this mat, and I just kind of measured it out 4 times, and that's what I ended up with. So that should be good there with not too much waste. Hopefully that's the plan anyways. Like I said, I measure with love, so yeah, should be good. Then you're gonna want either some kind of tape or some kind of clip to hold your piece on the back, and also when you're gluing stuff will make it a little easier. I almost forgot, we also need a paper clip. You'll want some kind of needle, and then if you decide that you're going to decorate the top here, you'll want some kind of decoration. I just took this, I got it at Hobby Lobby not that long ago. Some of this cord here, and then I have a charm from an earring I got from, I think this was from a garage sale, like that, and I just broke off the back, added some jump rings, and I'll put that on. For this one, this is from Hobby Lobby from it looks like it's from Christmas 2024 collection. I actually went to Hobby Lobby looking for this a few weeks ago, and I couldn't find it, so I don't know if they're gonna have it or not. So, but that's the one I used there. Let's see, did I miss anything? You're gonna want some glue, your white paint, of course, and then for the thumb notch on the side, or on the back side, I used a 1.5 inch punch. So let's get started with everything. We're gonna start with the cardboard. So let me move this stuff out of the way here. Just keep that stuff back there. And then I'll grab one of my threads. Wish me luck on threading. Oh, I just bumped you guys. Sorry about that. So that is ready. Then we're going to take our pencil. And this is 5.5 by 3. So we're going to do 1.5 inches. It's about 3. And I'm going to drop down 3 spots. So 1, 2, 3. And I go to the inner groove, not the top higher groove. And I went ahead and painted this and inked it already. And I've done that to everything just to save time here. So 1.5 inches, I just do a little mark. And then I come up 3, another 3. So 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to measure 1/2 inch in. And then another 1/2 inch in. So I have those spots. I try not to make them too big, but big enough for me to see. I lay it down and I find the top corner or the top middle mark and bring my ruler down to my bottom mark so it's kind of lined up. Now for this, after the first mark, I drop down 1 groove, and then after that I go every other groove. It's hard to do with the camera in my way, sorry. And I just make very little marks. And then on the other side, let's move it this way for you guys. So top mark, bottom mark, and because on the other side I marked it on the first one, I'm going to do every other one below that. So first notch, second notch go to the left side, and then the third notch will be my next one, and then I do every other one again. So it's going to be really hard to see those, but can you guys see those? Okay. So now for the fun part. I start with the top hole. You're going to punch it from the front, but you are not going to put it through. You're just going to make your hole so you know where to go from. So that hole, oh, I wish it would pick up better on the camera. You can kind of see it there. But on the back side, you'll find that hole, and you're going to feed your thread through, but not pulling it through all the way. So once I have just a small tail left, you can either do one of two things. You can clip this on there. Now I choose not to do it that way. It just kind of gets in your way. I prefer to use tape, but using the clips is just fine. Just kind of work around it. So I'm gonna just take, this is just some washi tape. You guys can use any kind of tape. And now that is held in place. So we are going to go down to our first hole. So going down 1, putting it in, pull this all the way through. Now on the back side, you're gonna leave a small loop on the back side. So I like to make sure it's nice and tight without being too tight on the front. So make sure everything looks good. You're gonna hold on to that. I kind of pull away like this. And you will see just a tiny bit of light coming through. What you want to do is poke through there, because you don't want to poke through your thread because it will mess up your thread. So you're going to want to keep holding that in place without making a knot. Of course you'd make a knot. Why would you not make a knot? So this is real life of things, so I'm not going to edit this out, but you guys can see not everything is perfect. And of course the knot I get is the knot of knots, right? There we go. Okay, so that's real life. You may get little knots, just work slow with it. And you're going to keep a small, this is probably going to be too big, but you're going to keep a small loop and you're going to hang on to that loop. So keep holding on to that loop, flip it over and go to your third spot. So the third spot down is on the right side when you're looking at it. Poke it through. And then I'm going to see that little loop you've made. You're going to feed your thread through that. And then you're going to pull it tight, but don't pull it too tight where it's pulling tight on the front side. You want to make sure that there's plenty of room on the front side of your, for the decor look. So then you're going to go back to that same hole, trying to avoid the thread. And you don't have to worry about holding anything this time. because it is attached, but the next one you will. So we are going to the fourth one down. You're going to poke it through on the left side. So I'm just alternating sides is what I'm doing. All right, so I have that left side. I'm going to hold, and I try to, like I said, I try to hold it up just because it gives me room to poke my needle through. So poke it back through while I'm holding on to that thread. Then I go to the right side, poke it through, and then feed it through my loop. I'm going to show this one more time, and then I'm just going to finish it and show you guys what it looks like. But see, I kind of pull it tight. I make sure there's plenty of room on the front side. And then I feed it back through my hole. So that's what it looks like. Now back to the left side. We're going to poke through, pull it all the way through. And then on the back side, I'm going to hold it with my finger. I'm going to feed it through, making sure not to pull it all the way through. Now I have that loop, I'm holding on to it. I'm going to go to my right side, poke, and then feed that needle through that loop that you had on your left side of your tree. So make sure that it's tight, but not being too tight, and then back through. So I'm going to finish this, and I will see you when I'm done. Okay, so we now have all of our holes done. And I don't know if I mentioned, but the bottom holes are on the same groove. I kind of marked this one a little off, but it is in the same groove. So we are on our back side. And I'm a firm believer if you can't tie a knot, tie a lot. So I usually just feed this through. So I have my loop. And I'll take my needle with the thread still on it, and I kind of feed it up a little bit. And then you want to make sure you pull up a little bit, but you don't want it too tight on the front. So just take that into consideration when you're pulling. Now that I have that, you can take this off, and you can really tie this whatever way you want. There's no specific way. You just want to tie it off somewhere. So that it doesn't pull back through while also not pulling too tight on the front. So that looks good to me. And I'm just going to put a few more knots in there. And then I'll just trim off those extra pieces. Now I'm going to go ahead and add the second color in. Like I said, this is not necessary. And you can also try adding, just to add a little thickness to it, add a second, if you have only one color green, put both of the green colors in there and see if it adds just a little bit of thickness to it. Because that's originally why I had done it. So you can see 2 threads, 1 thread. And if this is the look you're going for, like this is great for like the minimalist look. So it really just depends on what look you are going for. So I have the hardest time threading this needle. Okay. So this one's a little bit easier to do, and I think the Fat 48 worked out well for the length. There wasn't too much extra. So for this one, we are going to go through the same exact holes, trying not to get the other thread. So once again, I pull it through, add just a smidgen of tape, And you're just gonna follow through with the other thread. But this makes it a little easier because the holes, it's really hard to see, guys, I'm sorry, are already there. So I feed it through the opposite loop, because if you feed it through the same side loop, it's just gonna pull through. So you wanna go to the opposite side. Can I zoom in anymore? So you got one side of the loop right here, and then you have the second side of the loop. So when I'm looking at this, this will be my right side of my loop. So don't do that, don't stop. Went straight to my leg. All right, so feed it through. And then still go back to that same hole just like you were doing before. It's just easier on the fingers, especially if you have like tremors in your hands. Makes it a little bit easier. And then go back through the other side. You're kind of following the same path before. You're just not having to hold things in place this time. I think the hardest part with this is making sure not to go through the thread, because if you do, it becomes a hot mess. Ask me how I know. Ask me how I know. And it's really funny because today is actually Halloween and I'm sitting here doing Christmas stuff. But if you are someone that likes to make handmade gifts for Christmas, what is it, 8 weeks till Christmas? It doesn't feel like enough time. Like, you have to start early. I don't know, I felt like I started really late this year. Last year I made homemade vanilla extract, so I actually started in July, which is funny. But okay, so I have my thread all the way down on the bottom, and I'm just going to feed this through again and get this tied off. So I think the 48 inches is just enough to complete this project. I wouldn't do anything less than the 48 inches. And of course, it's going to depend on your size. So if you have a larger piece, make sure to actually cut a piece long enough for it. Okay. So this is now complete. All right, so in order to get this glued onto the cardboard, we're going to want to put on our charm. So kind of figure out where you want it. I utilize the grooves to try to figure out where I want it to hang. Now I like a little bit of a loop in it, so it's not glued to it. Of course my piece isn't turning around. Let's try. So I want it to dangle a little bit. I feel like it's backwards on. My charm keeps wanting to turn the other way, so yeah, perfect. So something like that is what I'm thinking. So there I go with the sew again, every single time. I wonder if I say it a lot in real life and I just don't realize it because I'm not on camera watching myself. I don't know. So I'm going to take my fabric. You want to take tape first, and then I'm going to take my Fabri-Tac to kind of hold it down. But you want a couple pieces of tape. So I like it like that. The other thing you guys can do, you can actually, when you're sewing this on, put charms on it. I bet you that would be beautiful. But I want a little glue. The tape doesn't seem to hold this in place for very long. So, and when I go to glue this, if I don't put glue on it first, I find that it moves. So I'm just going to double check it one more time. Make sure I like, basically I'm looking at the sway of it. I like that, so I'm going to add glue. And then I'm going to set this aside to let it dry. Then just to add a little reinforcement, make sure it doesn't move when I go to grab it. I'll just clip those in place. So see how the tape doesn't like to hold it? It's just kind of more of like a placekeeper just for a moment. So that is that. We're gonna leave that aside. We're gonna let that sit up for several minutes to dry. Okay, so we're coming back to we're with our cardboard now. And you're gonna take your piece of cardstock, figure out what side you want on the front, or what side you're gonna see, not that you see very much of it. And you're gonna wanna glue this on kind of center on your piece. So for this, I'm using Fabri-Tac. Wherever I have thread, I try to make sure I add a little extra glue just to make sure it stays in place without letting it seep through the holes. So I try to stay away from the holes that we poked with the embroidery needle. You're gonna want your edges. I tend to over glue. I apologize. But I've had pieces come apart, and there's nothing more annoying than your pieces coming apart. So before you stick it on there, you're gonna wanna center your paper clip right around there. Take this and make sure your charm doesn't get in the way. And you're gonna center this. Now you want this to dry before you start working with it. So I'm just gonna, mostly the paper clip. That's what will give you trouble. But I'm gonna clip, might need more clips here. One there, one there. I'm gonna just grab a few paper clips. Make sure everything stays in place. Okay, we're gonna give that a few minutes to set up, and then we will attach our back. Okay, so now we have this held down, so just go ahead and unclip it. Now, I was originally going to give you guys measurements for this, but depending on your size, I'm just going to kind of show you how to measure it. So you have your piece of packing paper. You're going to push this up. This is the back side. Push this up, and what you want is a spot for a tab. So you're just going to kind of eyeball this. It's too hard to give measurements because I don't know how big of a tab you guys want. So, and you kind of want this to fold over this top piece here to hide it. So can you kind of see what I'm doing there? I hope this isn't too confusing. So like that. So measure kind of where you want it and give it a good fold. And if you don't want a tab, you don't have to do a tab, but I would leave a little bit of a lip so that it attaches. So mine's going to be about there and then about there. I'm going to pull this off to just be able to fold it. Make sure it's square when I fold it. Okay. So this will tuck in. This will fold up. And this will fold over. And it's easier to trim a little bit off the front if you need to than it is to try to make adjustments later. So beautiful. Yes. Now on my original, I have a, let's see. A pocket here. So we're going to recreate this pocket here. And also originally I had hole punched both of them because I didn't think about the thumb notch till afterwards, but this time I'm just going to do the one. So I have it folded in place. I'm going to kind of figure out where I want my hole punch. And you can cut this out by hand if you want. Make sure you only get the one side. So a little punch there. Perfect. Let me add some ink. So you have your piece. Now the next part is to figure out, and this is kind of a figure outable spot. Is that even a thing? You're going to want to see how far down your paper clip comes, because you want to make sure that's completely glued. So I'm just going to make a mark there so I can see it. You'll never see it once it's folded. So right there. So that's going to be how much glue you're going to want to put on it, but I'm going to take it over to my sewing machine and put a stitch across here. Yeah. No, you know what? I'm not going to put a stitch on there. I changed my mind. Yeah, I'm not going to. Okay. So you're going to hold it in place, figure out where your line is, and you're just going to add your glue. Okay. So my paper clip is completely covered. You want to make sure also your paper clip is snug and your line is square. So you're going to fold it up. Make sure it's square. Now we're on this side. And once again, I am going to add some glue, making sure to get my paper clip. And I will cut the tabs out by hand when I am done, once I let the glue dry a little bit. Now you want to make sure everything's nice and square. And then I usually just add in some clips. All right, we're just going to give that a minute to dry. And while we're waiting for this to dry, we'll actually add in our pockets. Or add in, add on. So I forgot to ink that. Let me get that inked real quick. So for this one, I want to just have a little bit of glue on the outer edges. So flip that. Just figure out where you want it. And then we'll let that dry as well. Let's see how this is. This might be, there we go. So I just like to double check that my glue is good still, that it doesn't, oh, I got a little on there. I just like to double check my pocket. Close enough, so we're gonna make our tab. So our overall is 3.5, so I'm gonna come in, what did I do on this one? Okay, so I will come in 1/2 inch and make a mark. And then I will come in 3/4 inch and make another mark. So, and I can't find my first one. You want to make sure that you're not going to cut your main part here. So you can see a line where your paper clip is. You want to stay above that. So you're going to repeat on the other side. And we will cut those out. And now we have our tab. You can straighten it up if you're like me and made it a little crooked. So like that. Beautiful. So now we have our back pocket for you guys. Your side pocket. So I was going to add in a second tutorial, but this has gotten very long. So I hope you have enjoyed yourself, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye.